Welcome back to another video, everybody. This is the recap for yesterday's race that was likely I'm going to put it down as one of my best race performances on Zwift. Probably like tactically or effort-wise, it might even be up there with races I've done outdoors. Who knows? You can't really compare. But after all of the messages, like I thank you so much on Strava, on Zwift, on YouTube, on the live stream yesterday. Thank you for your messages and for the support and watching and just engaging, because at this moment in time when I'm playing chess with sponsors and brands and trying to show myself a little bit and give these performances, sometimes, it really helps when I've got people behind me and really showing me how much I can push myself. And live streaming always pushes myself. So what we have, a little bit of a summary of, I'll drop these in during the race of these efforts. I'm going to try and do like a proper Lantern Rouge breakdown of this race. So we have the big overview of the race. It was a big effort required just to even finish this race. Everybody who was racing, both back pedal and for other teams, there was lots of suffering happening everywhere. Doesn't matter if you were last man, first woman, last woman, in the middle of the bunch, like wherever you were, everyone was going through personal battles. And this stage, this is the final stage, this is the Queen stage. It's Quatch Crest on Zwift, and the reason why I wanted to make this video is not to just sort of regurgitate what happened yesterday, but to kind of give you an insight into like how I prepared and how I actually just got the effort out, because there was quite a few questions from people about like the effort that was required. As you'll see, there was a lot of riding on Zwift. The yellow color, which symbolizes threshold, and then red is obviously like higher than threshold, or as hard as you can go for that time period. And the questions often were saying like, how do you even manage to ride that much around threshold? And I'll get into that in a little bit. But this is the bottom of the Epic KOM, which was the first climb on the route that was significant, really, of the two major climbs. It took 18 and a half minutes there or thereabouts to summit it. And before this race even started, in fact, going back even 24 hours before this race even started, I already had plans to attack here. The race always lulls on this part of the Epic KOM. If you find yourself in that front select group and you're not on the back foot, the race always lulls. And it's because the gradient backs off. So I decided to put in the move here, just because I knew that there might be a little bit of, people might be a bit hesitant. It's a long way to go. It's still a long way to go. I think it's 35 kilometers to go from here and an awful lot of climbing. But mentally, I was prepared for it. I knew I was going to attack there, and regardless if anybody had come with me or not, even if it was a sizable group or even if the whole bunch reacted, I was still going to make it difficult, because I didn't just want a race where it would just come down to the Alpe. And, not that we'd be fresh getting there because of all the races we'd done leading up to this. But, this stage, granted, it took me an hour and a half. I know it took people 2.5 hours to do this stage. Hats off to you guys. Your effort is bigger than mine, quite frankly. But when you realize, when you're at the front of a race and you know the race is going to take only an hour and a half, for example, you know the race has to be hard, because if it's not hard, you're going to get to the bottom of the Alpe and everyone's going to be like Freddy Fresh Legs. Well, not quite, but you'll at least get there and people will be ready to attack and they'll be ready to put in a pretty decent effort up the Alpe. Now, I wanted to take the edge off that. Now, obviously, I'm burning matches here, but everybody else has to burn matches because they don't want me to get away. They don't want me to get such a massive gap that, it's never going to come back. Now, the nature of this event, and there was people telling me in the live chat that, it's a little bit pointless going away here because you've got the descent to contend with off the Epic, and then you've got to go through the jungle. So I'm racing for Backpedal in this race, and we've got a Discord server full of really, really knowledgeable people. And I take a lot from that because I'm not the best when it comes to Zwift racing, specifically when it comes to equipment and things of that nature. I'm not very good at specifics. With this, I actually decided to start with the DT Swiss disc wheel. Everybody had the same bike, but you could choose different wheel sets. Now, with the Epic KOM slightly more draftable than obviously the Alpe, I chose to start with disc. Here's the next portion of the race here where I've got caught at the bottom, and I decided to ride with the group here to recover before. I know I've got two options. I can ride with the group here all the way to the bottom of the Alpe and then change wheels at the bottom of the Alpe, which I know is risky, but I can do in about 10 seconds. There's a couple of keyboard shortcuts you can hit, and bang, you can change your wheel sets. But I decided to go here, and I decided to go here because, again, the pace was slow, and people were, eating, drinking, all these sorts of things because they've just come off the bottom of the Epic KOM. This FRR put in a bit of a surge. The power data's popped up on the screen there. I put in a bit of a surge for a couple of minutes to get that gap. I was quite surprised this time around about getting the gap. I wasn't surprised about getting the gap on the Epic because I assumed it was too far out for people to commit. But here I thought, I was surprised that people didn't commit and come with me, quite frankly. So mentally, I'm still on my game here. I'm still switched on. I'm still ready for it. Coming up off the wooden bridge in the jungle, those of you that know it well, the jungle is murder, by the way. It's an horrific place to ride. I decide to swap wheels here. Risky, I know, but I'm going into it with a little bit of an advantage, time-wise. So I faff about here for a bit, find the lightweights, close the menu, press exit on the keyboard, and bang, I'm away. The time gap is a little bit messed up, but eventually when the time gap refreshes, I've got about 18 seconds advantage. Now, I was fully expecting this part of the jungle, slightly downhill, I was going to get swamped and I was going to get caught. Didn't happen, and because I was able to ride, thankfully, at a high percentage of my functional threshold power. Now, my FTP at the minute is 337 watts, but I've actually raised it a little bit after seeing the effort that I've done yesterday because, quite frankly, I held FTP for an hour and 15 minutes, which isn't impossible. People can hold functional threshold power for longer than an hour, and some people can hold it for only half an hour. So I bumped it up a little bit. But this effort that I did throughout the whole race was just beyond what I expected, and I'm sure beyond what you expected as well. When I got to the bottom of the Alpe, I'd been fueling really well. I'd been taking in 80 grams of carbs through liquid form. I just had one bottle. I mean, you look at it here, we've only got 50 minutes on the clock. So in terms of fluids, you don't want to be overloading the system because at the minute, this is where the big effort starts. So if I'm going to be drinking a lot, it's going to be feeling quite uncomfortable for the next 40 minutes or so, wherever long it takes me to get up the Alpe. I had no idea actually how long it would take me to get up the Alpe because I actually had no idea. I was in the unknown here now because I'd never done a move like this on Zwift. I'd never done such an audacious attack where I'd been out for virtually the whole day. Well, it's not really a whole day; it's an hour and a half race, but you know what I mean. But I'd never risked. I don't think I'd ever risk that much, and this is why it'll go up there with one of these races that I'll never forget. Because yes, it's a general classification race. I still don't know where we've come in the general classification, but I threw everything at this one and committed to it to see what would stick. And truth be told, once I got halfway up the Alpe and I realised that at the bottom of the Alpe I had a 40-second gap to the chase group, I knew that drafting wouldn't matter. I knew the group would start splitting. I knew the strong riders would, or not so much the strong riders, but the less fatigued riders would come to the front, and there wouldn't be many of them. You know how the Alpe usually goes. People start to break up quite early on the steep lower slopes, and then it gets, a little bit tasty the closer you get to the top. I managed to find a rhythm. I was sat in at around 80 RPM. I was sat at bang on almost around FTP, which at the time was blowing my mind, because I thought, I'm so far into this race, how am I still doing it? Sometimes you surprise yourself. Sometimes when something's on the line like this, as serious as you take it or as fun as you take it, sometimes you don't realize what you could be capable of if you just roll the dice right at the very beginning. So I've popped a gel with about 5 kilometers to go, which is about 25 grams of carbs, and then I was all in. And I realized the gap was coming down a little bit. It dropped down to 29 seconds at one point. But once I knew that I was within a few kilometers of the top, and people were saying in the live chat that you're about 10 minutes from the top, 5 minutes from the top, I was starting to get shivers. Shivers from both like the effort and from just knowing that I was going to pull off something that I just, I can't put into words. Honestly, like it's one of those efforts where, it's the same if you did a 5-minute maximum test and you turn yourself inside out and you're on a really, really good leg day, and you absolutely smash yourself and you feel good and you smash it. Like it takes you to another level of like internal happiness. It was like I was getting the shivers because I realized what I was achieving. Like I realized what sort of place I'd pushed myself to and what sort of effort I'd got out with myself. And when the time gap started to increase in the last couple of corners at the top, I was like, wow, like I've buried myself beyond belief here. And I just hope that in some way, like I don't come across as someone who's just like, oh, look at this effort, like this is phenomenal, this is it. By live streaming it's supposed to just be like putting it out there and like to inspire you a little bit to jump on the bike yourself today. Now, if you're watching this right now, or if you're actually on the bike this very minute and you're doing a workout, like just dig in and see what you can do. And so I couldn't believe it. You can see my reaction at the end there. But I really, really enjoyed this race. I just wanted to talk about it in just a one-off video, because maybe I do want to come back and watch this in 20 years time. I don't know. But if there was anything you learned from it, if there was anything that I can help you with or go into more detail, I can do so in the comments down below. But I really hope you enjoyed this breakdown, and I will see you in the next video.